Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Conversations with Nicole Show. I'm Nicole Huckabee. My guest today is Barbara Hannah Grufferman. I'm so excited to welcome her back to the show. Barbara, a native New Yorker and recognized expert on positive aging, is the award-winning author of Love Your Age, The Small Step Solution to a Better, Longer, Happier Life, and The Best of Everything After 50. The Expert's Guide to Style, Sex, Health, Money, and More. She has appeared on major shows like The Today Show, CBS This Morning, and Good Morning America, sharing her wisdom on health, wellness, and living your best life as you age. Her podcast, Age Better, explores a wide range of topics from nutrition, fitness, beauty, finance, relationships, and self-acceptance. Barbara is someone I truly admire and respect. I really hope you enjoy our conversation. Let's get started. To the Conversations with Nicole Show. I am delighted to have back as my guest Barbara Hannah Grufferman. She is the host of the Age Better podcast, and we've actually become pretty decent friends over the last year since I interviewed you the first time.
It's so nice to be back. It's so nice to be back. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thanks for saying yes. We're kindred spirits in the podcast world, and we also value health and wellness. We're also both post-menopausal, so we're in that aging better category, I guess we could say. But I just always love what you bring to the table on your podcast. And I wanted my audience to, first of all, know you had a rebranding not too long ago, and now you're Age Better. So share with my audience about that.
Oh, thanks for asking about that. I love doing my podcast so much. It is weekly, religiously weekly. I never skip a week, and I always learn something new. That's the amazing thing. I often have a medical expert on the show talking about something very specific. Like recently, it was about atrial fibrillation and women, and we always think of we don't really think about women and AFib so much. So I always learn something new, but to your question, when I started the podcast, I guess going on 3 years ago, it was called Gruff Talk because my name is Barbara Hannah Grufferman, and I thought that would be clever, and and it was doing very well. But as it Gruff Talk, and like what does that mean? Maybe we get a little gruff. I don't know. Whatever. I thought it was okay. Let's go for it. And then I really. The more I recorded the episodes, the more I realized and really looked at other podcasts, I realized that you need to really say what you are, I think, to get the biggest audience and to really grow your audience. And I really want to grow the audience because I want to share this incredible information that I get every week from all of these experts with women. So I changed it, I guess about, I want to say well over a year ago, I changed it to Age Better because I thought, wow, that really kind of says exactly what it is we are trying to do with this podcast. What we are all trying to do as we get older is to age better, but with the right information. And that's really where I feel I come in, is getting the right information, kind of like curating. I really feel that's my job is I get out there, I look at all the recent research and studies that come out. I scour the medical journals literally every morning. I get a slew of them by email, and I look to see what is some new information that's come out that's relevant to this audience, not to everybody, but to this audience, and what can they do with this information? And that really is like my model. And so it has grown. It's in the top 5% of all podcasts globally. So I'm really happy to report that. And it's doing well, and I enjoy it so much.
Well, you're just fantastic. As you talk about it growing globally and being in that top 5%, what do you think it is that makes your podcast unique? Is it just that our population of women is growing and they're seeking good information from you? Or is it maybe you are more specific in how you're relaying the information? What do you think it is that's making this a topic that women want to know about?
Oh, that's really, thank you. Great question. First of all, a lot of, like all of the above and
Yes.
more. I really do think because I had been in this field, the space of positive aging for about 17 years when I came out with my first book. My first book came out about 15 years ago. The Best of Everything After 50, very positive
Yes.
spin on getting older, which was kind of unheard of 15
Yeah.
years ago. We were still in that kind of fight aging, don't age kind of, mindset. And so, I was really trying to shift people's mindsets about aging around to focus more on what are the positives, what are the things we can control, and
Yeah.
how do we control them? What information do we need? How should we be moving our bodies? How should we be eating now? So on and so forth. And so that became my mission.
Yeah.
And so with the books that I write, my last book came out a few years ago. I have a regular column now in AARP, the magazine, which I'm happy to report is the world's largest circulation magazine, which is crazy, right?
That's awesome.
That it is
And
for,
you're in.
people over
Yeah.
50. So I have a little column, but it's very focused. So to your question, I do think that one of the reasons my podcast is growing is because I do try my best to focus on very specific things. Like, recently, and this was one of the most downloaded episodes, I did an episode with a cardiologist who is world renowned for being an expert on statins and specific to women's health, specifically women's health. And, there's a lot of noise around statins swirling around out there, especially on social media. And I really wanted to set the record straight because as we get older, the likelihood of being on a
Right.
statin or have it recommended to you by your doctor, it becomes greater. And so people are worried about it, nervous about it, confused about
Yeah.
them. And so that's the thing. I want to cut through the noise and get to the best information so that not to say, hey, take that statin, so that people listening or watching on my YouTube channel can say, oh, that is good information. Now let me make my own decision based on this good information about what's best for me. And
Yeah.
maybe
That's great.
even bring that information to my own healthcare
Yeah.
provider and continue that conversation. So that's really what I hope to do. I never push things on people, except sometimes.
Yeah. Except sometimes when you
Every
really,
now
really,
and
really
then.
need to, right? As I was listening to you, I'm thinking you were really a pioneer for women's health before it became a thing. It's really a thing now, and we're almost saturated in the world of podcasting and social media with information about uh, life after 50. How do we handle menopause and the things that happen. What was it that told you or came to you back 15 plus years ago when you said, I want to put something out there for people 50 and over? What led you to do that?
Yeah, because I needed it for myself. I mean, this is, part of my backstory
Yeah.
of why I'm doing what I'm doing. I went through menopause at 49. At 50, I was like, huh?
Yeah.
Putting on the postmenopausal pounds. I broke my arm just by walking my dog. I shouldn't have. Turned out I had low bone density after my first DEXA test. So all of this was happening. And I thought, what? This is what's happening.
Right.
What do I do? Like,
Well,
what do
before
I
people just
eat?
accepted it and they were like, I don't know what to do with it. Just keep, you know, move forward, whatever, and I'll just figure it out. But you said, let's figure this out.
Right, because very often, and that's an excellent point you bring up, very often people, women and men, will just say, oh, well, this is what it's like to
Yeah.
be
What can I
50.
do?
So you
Right.
kind of give into it
Right.
and not really make any changes. I often like to talk about one of my favorite words is assessment. I really
Mhm.
feel that we all need to reassess where we are in all aspects of
Yeah,
life,
of course.
everything, job and relationship,
Yeah.
every finances, everything, but also your health periodically. And then you tweak. You tweak because what were you doing when you were 40 maybe isn't right anymore at 50 and
Or it
so
just
on and
doesn't
so
work.
forth.
It just doesn't
No, you
work.
need to tweak. So,
Right.
and not only is your body changing, right? I mean, you're
Right.
getting older and your body changes. That's just the nature of the evolution of the
Yeah.
human body. But also new research comes out, getting back to what I was saying earlier. We're always seeing new research coming out
Yeah.
about really every aspect of our health. And the good news is, and so this is why I like to focus on this and really reassess and tweak for
Right.
myself. And that's how I started to get into this whole world of
Yeah.
positive aging because I needed it. But then also I do like to report on all of this to help everyone else reassess and tweak. And also, I want to get back to something you said earlier. I think another reason why people are enjoying my particular podcast is because it's very layman. It's layman. It's not medical and it's not bro-ish. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Right now, there really is, and this is a fairly new kind of interest. There's a real interest in longevity. I mean,
Yes.
that's the term, longevity. I don't personally like to use that term because what I'm all about is not so much longevity, but it's about your health span. That
Right.
means however long you're around, I want you to be as healthy and fit and mobile,
Yeah.
right, as
Quality.
possible.
Have a
For as
quality
long,
life.
exactly right,
Yes.
exactly right. But
That's
there's
so
a
funny.
real
I heard
interest.
someone talking about longevity just today, a different podcast that I was listening to. And she said, well, women in my family live to be in their 90s. And but she did say, I want to be my best self, whatever the time frame is. And it is all
Right.
about quality. I don't
It's
want to
all
live to
about
be old and
quality.
just be blah. I want to be moving until I'm not, right?
Right? Me too. Me too. And being mobile, that's a really important word I like to use
Sure.
now because people, when you're younger, you don't think about these things. You just don't think about mobility, you know?
Right.
And so, but that's a really big goal of mine now, which
Mm-hmm.
is why strength training and making sure your bones are strong and, because we do know that once you go through menopause, they do get weaker and
Yes.
thinner because of estrogen levels. I mean, it's just happening.
It just
So you want to
happened.
do everything you can because the stronger your bones, the stronger your muscles, the greater your chance of being mobile
Oh,
and independent,
yes.
keyword too, as possible as you get older. But just getting back to this whole thing about longevity. So what's happened in the last few years is there's been a slew, and I call them the bros because they are men. But there's a bunch of men out there on podcasts, and many of them are doctors and highly regarded doctors. I'm not taking away any
Sure.
of their credit where credit is due, but they do focus on that, on longevity, on all of, biohacking,
Yeah. Yeah.
biohacking. What can you take? What can you ingest?
What's the
To
little thing you can do to get this or that? Yeah.
Not so little. I mean, a lot of it is like so extreme,
Well, that's
like
true
the
too.
levels of exercise and supplementation and not doing certain things. Like, where's the enjoyment in that?
Yeah.
There's got to be some little
Well,
happy
there's got to be
kind of
balance,
medium.
I think.
But so I do try to really pay attention to a lot of that information that they do convey and make it less medical, more layman, more like, oh, I got it, Barbara. So if I did A, B, and C, if I do 15 minutes, this week, the episode's focusing on with a researcher, a PhD, focusing on how doing 15-minute, a
Yeah.
high intensity interval training hit
Yeah.
exercise, start twice a week, move up to 4 times, 5 times, even every day if you can, is far and away more effective than a 45-minute kind of slow, low intensity walk or run.
Right. I
So
heard
think
that
about
episode.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been around, like that kind of
Sure.
research has been around, but she is the first person to have her research be specifically focused on postmenopausal women. And
Right.
I saw it in one of the medical journals and went, wow, I got to report on this.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just for the general population, but it was specific to
Right.
postmenopausal women who have a tendency to get, I'm sure a lot of you out there listening know what I'm talking about, the belly fat,
Oh
which is
yeah.
really visceral fat. Your waist gets thicker. You don't want that because that's unhealthy fat. You know, you may be unhappy if you have a little in your thighs or your tush,
Yeah.
but that's not dangerous. Whereas around your belly, it can be. So it was a fascinating bit of research. And, that's kind of easy to do. It's not overly complicated. It's not taking a lot away from your time or your
Right.
life. And that's the kind of information I really enjoy most reporting back to my audience about.
Yeah. I agree. I love what you bring to the table. What kind of feedback do you get from your audience?
Uh, you know, Luckily, positive feedback,
Yeah.
positive
Like, I
feedback.
mean,
And
things
I
they want you to talk
hear,
about or
yeah. And what's so wonderful is like I've gotten emails because the email is put out there every week, and certainly on social media, their personal stories about how they've started to do something as a result of listening to the podcast. And one thing I said earlier, like I don't really tell anybody what to do except sometimes. One of those times in February during Heart Health Month,
yeah.
and I had seen a lot of studies, and I'd had several guests on the show talking about some cardio tests that women specifically in midlife should be getting. Things that like you don't normally hear about. Like you go to your annual physical, your doctor's not going to tell you about it because it's just not been put out there enough to have it be like a lipid panel. Your cholesterol levels
Right.
is a given. You're going to get
Yeah.
that. So things like the calcium score test that shows how much a plaque buildup you have in your arteries. You don't know. You have no
Yeah.
idea. You
Right.
have no idea what it is. So I went and got it's invasive, completely non-invasive, very inexpensive, usually paid by insurance, and takes like, I think I was in and out in 8 minutes. It's like a little
Perfect.
bit of a scan, do, and then they see.
How about
And
that?
and midlife women can have zero. It is totally possible to have zero. I had 18. I was shocked, given that I'm a runner, I eat well, I keep my stress at a good low level, blah, blah, blah. I was like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, 18. I couldn't believe it. So, something to keep an eye on now. Who
Yeah.
knew? Yeah.
Yeah. Those
So
are
I
those
did
are
I
the
did
those are the
insist that
key
people
things.
get that.
Go do that. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So I guess what is next for you as far as what you want to bring to the table? Anything new that you're looking into? And are there any areas that you haven't explored that you want to explore with your podcast and maybe even personally?
Thank you for asking that question. I mean, I think one of the most important tools that we all have as we get older is to stay curious, to stay involved, stay engaged, and keep thinking, oh, what else is out there for me? So your
Right.
question to me is a good one. I'm always asking myself that, always asking myself that. What else should I be doing? What else can I be doing? I don't, you may want to retire from your paid career. Absolutely.
Right.
But I propose for all of you listening in that you kind of transition over to something else that gives your life meaning
Meaning.
and a sense of purpose and joy,
Yeah.
super important.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be every day, but don't just like stop. I mean, every study I've ever seen says that's not a good idea.
Well,
Not a good
that
idea.
really resonates with me because I was 35 years a career and then got married and retired on top at a very young age, not retirement
Yes,
age. So I had to immediately make sure that I was doing something that gave me purpose, which is my show, my
yes.
podcast, and doing other things on the side, freelance work, trying a little bit of acting. I think it is so true as we age, we need to make sure we are staying active, whatever that looks like to you. When you sit down, that's really probably when some of the troubles begin.
Yeah, for sure. You have to keep moving and moving, now physically moving first and
Yeah.
then the mental, of course.
Yeah.
But the physical moving is so essential. I mean, I've seen a ridiculous amount of research on that. Like I'm okay,
Right.
I'm in, done. I don't have to show me any more research. I get it. It's true. You just have to keep moving. Whatever way of moving that brings you happiness and it will keep you doing it because consistency is key. Whatever it is. I'm a runner. I like to
Yeah.
run marathons. I have a little stress fracture at the moment that's stopping me, but I know it's healing and I'll be back. But that gives me a great deal of joy. And, just walking, if you have a dog, I mean, doing strength training, super, super, super important. But just getting back to your question about what's next for me, you and I spoke last year about menopause,
Yeah.
and menopause is having its moment, and by connection, if you will, so
Mhm.
is midlife,
Right.
because it happens in midlife. Not for everyone, of course, but for most of us,
In
it's in
general,
midlife
yes.
in general. And so menopause, because of celebrities out there and new products and new medical services that are telehealth, and really it's exploding.
Yeah.
There was a new documentary that just made the rounds
Yeah.
with people I know behind it, and I had a few of them on my show talking about it. So that's a really, really big thing. And so I had been toying with coming out with a book about menopause, but not so much about menopause, what you feel like as you're going through it, meaning the hot flashes and the
Yeah.
like, but how menopause impacts your body for the long term, your
Yeah.
bones, your heart, your brain. There's so much research now.
Yeah.
And, you know, I do have a newsletter that I do
Yeah.
with a doctor, highly regarded endocrinologist. It's called Menopause Cheat Sheet. So
Yeah.
I do have that and send it out again with the latest information. And then very often I'll have an episode on Age Better with that doctor. Her name is Dr. Margaret
Yeah.
Nachtigal, talking about a specific aspect of menopause. Like we've covered the heart, the brain,
Yeah.
bones, and again, when new research comes out, in fact, I'm recording an episode with her talking about this new bit of research that came out, talking about how hot flashes and certain other aspects of menopause and their impact on your risk for developing dementia, which is a
Oh,
big
wow.
fear of a lot
Yeah.
of people. So I like to report that kind of information back to my audience too, usually in discussion with a medical
Yeah.
expert who can really, you know,
Right. To
discuss it
discuss it. Make sure it has
credibly.
all the medical terms and gets it exactly right. I hear you.
Exactly.
What advice would you give to people, women that are seeking advice on menopause, how to handle all, we're being inundated by tons of information from so many different platforms, so many different doctors, so many different podcasts, so many people just, some are hosts, some are medical experts. I mean, there's just a ton of information and we're trying to decipher through all of it. And as you have said, the research is just changing constantly. What, I guess in general, good sound advice would you give to the menopausal woman on how to absorb all of it and implement it in their life without getting overwhelmed? Because you can get overwhelmed with
Totally.
all the information that's out there, and you want to do the best, but there's some things that aren't doable, maybe are doable. What would you tell them?
Yeah, that's exactly the reason why I started Menopause Cheat Sheet actually 4 years ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic, to kind of cut through the noise and
Yeah.
just kind of give the audience the important information because there
Right.
is so much out there. And since then, in the last
Oh,
4 years, it has exploded and there's so much out there. And I think, a few things. One, read a really good book. And there are a few books out now because of the explosion.
yeah.
But the one I often recommend is called Estrogen Matters.
Okay.
It is written by doctors, but it's become like this book that has changed women's thinking about menopause and really explains so much in very clear language with science to back it up. So I really recommend that book, Estrogen Matters. You can get it on Amazon
Yeah.
for sure. And then, of course, Dr. Mary Claire Haver
Yeah.
has just come out with a new book, The New Menopause. So there is some new books out there. But I would go to Estrogen Matters first and
Yeah.
foremost. And then I would definitely have a conversation with your doctor. Women are very often reluctant to speak about menopause.
I
Still,
know.
even though there's been this explosion, we're still
I
like a
know.
little uncomfortable talking about it, maybe
Right.
even a little embarrassed talking about a dry vagina or, dry, whatever it is, dry
Right.
skin, maybe hair loss, whatever your symptom is, sleepless nights, mood swings. And I really encourage you to find yourself a good healthcare provider who can
Yeah.
have this conversation with you and be your partner as you transition through menopause. Now, if you don't know who to go to, or if you don't like your current doctor, very often, so often, way too often, we hear women say, I did bring it up with my primary care physician or my gynecologist or whoever, fill in the blank, and they poo-poo me. They're like,
Mm,
oh, it'll pass. Like,
mm,
just deal
mm.
with it.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
not the
still
answer.
happening.
That's
And that's not good. So if
right.
you have that in your life, you need to move on to somebody else. A good place to go is menopause.org.
Okay.
That is the website for the Menopause Society. And I would definitely go there, and you put in your zip code, and they can show you if there are menopause providers certified in your area. So that would be a really good
Yeah.
place to start, and just be open about it. And I
Yeah.
also really encourage women, because it can impact your sex life, which could impact your relationship with your partner. Could. Now, I'm not saying will,
Right.
could. And so be open about it. Like, have him or her understand what it is that you're experiencing, that it's
Yeah.
a physical thing, it's an emotional thing, and it's a real thing.
It is a
It's
real thing.
it's
That's right.
real. It's
Yeah.
not in your head.
Yeah.
Not in your head.
I love that you talk about all of those things on your podcast. It's relationships, it's sex, it's menopause, it's health and wellness, but it doesn't leave any category that we are impacted by through menopause untouched. And so I love that about you, that you bring all of those experts to the table and we get to hear what we can do to help with our sex life and what we can do to help with our relationships, going through this stage of our life. So thank you for doing all of that. You're helping us out in.
Oh, it brings me so much joy. And it's such a funny thing, because I mentioned I have written books,
Yeah.
but the whole process of writing a book is so great. I mean, it's a lot of work, a lot of
Oh, I'm sure.
research, a lot of interviews, blah, blah, blah. Then you have to write it and put it all together. Then you send it off to your publisher, and then it goes through. Before you know it, it is literally a year and a half to 2 years later
Right.
before it comes out. Kind of like when they make movies, it's no different.
Yeah.
It's like, you think, oh, they just made that movie, the actors, and
Yeah.
no, it was
No.
probably like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So, and that drives me crazy, and that's why I love doing the podcast, because
Because
when
things
I see new
change.
research, I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And I
Yes.
get that expert, and I get, the author of that study, and I get that person on the show literally the next week.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
amazing to me. It's like new, up to date information. And that's so important to me. And it's important
Yes.
to me personally too.
Yeah. It is important to me too. And things do change so quickly. And because of the way our world is now, with access to uh, instant information through podcasts, through YouTube, through social media, and all of that, we don't have to wait for the book anymore. We can get that information quickly and adjust, because we do know things change over the years. Things that we thought were good 10 years ago, something that said diet didn't necessarily mean it was good for you, because of the ingredients. So we have to learn and evolve, and we have to stay educated, and we have to be our own best advocate. I have learned
Right.
that too. And it's hard. Sometimes you got to say, I can't get anybody to answer me. I can't get these questions, blah, blah, blah. Why do I have to work so hard? Well, you're in charge of your health and you have to do it if you want to stay living your best life and aging better, right?
Yep.
And that's what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, I hate it when people get overwhelmed. Like, I always like to say what all of these healthy steps is good for you. Work our way down is good for your
Yeah.
brain, is
Sure.
good for your heart, is good for, really your
Yeah.
mood, your skin, your weight, getting to your healthy
Yeah.
weight, whatever that is, everyone, by the way,
Right.
that's specific to you.
Right.
And that's really so important. How you move your body and what you eat, it's going to benefit everything.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And, I think sometimes as women, we're so critical of ourselves and we look at other people and we think, I'm supposed to look like that. And I'm honestly talking about myself. I look at myself and go, well, why can't I look like that? I feel like I'm doing those things. And then I should show
Yeah.
myself more grace as long as we are doing the things that are helping us, be healthy of mind and body and emotionally and all of that. We should not worry so much about being a Barbie shape, but being our best self. And I think that's something that women struggle with because I know I have personally struggled with that. So
Yeah.
I think as long as we're having,
Social media hasn't made it any easier. And this
no,
is true for all age groups, by the way.
yes,
Even
yes,
we know now, even young people are even more susceptible, if you
yeah,
will, to, emotional
yeah,
discomfort. Seeing other people doing things, looking good, looking better, what you fill in the blank. And yeah, we do that. And it's a battle.
it is.
It's a battle. You have to talk
Yeah,
yourself out of it,
right,
like don't go down that path and
right.
focus on yourself. That's why, when I run marathons, I am competitive, but
Yeah,
I'm not racing against anybody. I'm
right.
racing against myself. Like if I've decided I want to, go faster than the last one,
Yeah,
it's a self competition.
right,
So, that's really what I've trained myself to do.
right.
But just in terms of how we look, I mean, since I became, kind of focused on positive aging for the last 15 years or so, I'm focused much, much more on what is going to bring me good health
Yes.
and what is going to help me age better. That's the priority.
Yeah.
That's
Well, if
the
we could all flip
priority.
that switch and think about that more than, I guess, the aesthetics, we would be better off, mentally and emotionally and physically for sure.
Yes,
Um,
but there's a caveat to that. But if you do a lot of these things that I talk about and write about and interview people about, you actually will look better.
that's
See, that's the
true.
thing.
That's the truth.
That's the
That's,
thing. It's
yeah,
true.
you're right. You're
I've been
right.
able to maintain a healthy weight, and I'm 68, and I've been able to maintain a healthy weight by doing, I walk the walk. I talk,
Yeah.
I do what I tell you guys to do.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. You're so good, Barbara. I tell you, you're like
No,
our,
I still like strawberry ice cream a lot, but yeah.
well, there's nothing wrong
Everything in
with that.
moderation and a glass of
Exactly.
wine, everything in moderation.
Absolutely. Well, listen, we could just talk forever. I want to thank you for being my guest again to share with my audience about your Age Better podcast, about what you're doing, and really how you've been a pioneer for women and going through menopause and the things that you've written and being so diligent about doing research that helps us live our best life. So thank you for that. And I'm just so glad that I met you. Not so long ago and that we became friends because of you. I actually got a bone density test. So because of you, I kind of worked through some of my hormonal issues that I was trying to get straight. So you are making a difference in people's lives because you've made a difference in my life. And thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was great to see you.
It was. Now remind folks really quickly how they can follow you and keep up with you.
Okay, so I have a website, barbarahannahgrufferman.com, has all the information and the newsletters and stuff on there. But also you can check out Age Better with Barbara Hannah Grufferman podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, YouTube Music. YouTube channel, really wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you'll find it. I hope you
Well,
listen.
I hope that they will listen to. They will no doubt benefit from it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you. See you soon.
Yes, and that will do it for this edition of the Conversations with Nicole show. Until I see you again, I hope you have a great day.